So, welcome to 5465 podcast. For those of you Big Ten fans, and especially Maryland fans that are looking to the future, you should already know the name Billy Edwards. But if you don't, it's your lucky day because you're going to meet him here on 5465 podcast. What's up, Billy? Thanks for coming on.
How we doing? Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on. So I see that you grew up in the DC area. Have you always wanted to be a Terp, or were you a Maryland fan growing up?
I definitely watched Maryland football a lot. My dad played here for 2 years. My dad's a high school football coach, so he's always gone to like some Maryland football games. So I've been to a couple ever since I was, young, as long as I can remember. So I definitely, rooted for the Virginia schools growing up, but Maryland only being 35 minutes away was in that category too. So I've always, I've grown up being a Maryland fan, and I'm glad everything worked out the way it was, and I'm able to be a Terp.
Yeah, man, it must be cool playing for a college and having it be your hometown, basically, be able to watch you play and being so close to home.
Yeah, no, it definitely it's such a nice feeling being close to home and being able to play and live out my childhood dream. And just a sense of pride I get, playing for Maryland and being only 35 minutes away from home. You really feel it in College Park, and then even when I go back to Northern Virginia on the weekends or whenever I get a chance, there's definitely a lot of Maryland fans over there. So it's just a really good feeling.
Yeah. And I just had to say, I was at a Maryland Purdue game and I was behind the bench, and you pointed at me and winked. So
I think I remember.
I told myself in that moment, this kid's going places. What's it like? You just look so happy. And what's it like playing at places like the Big House, Happy Valley? And as a kid, always wanted to play football. And you're playing in the most historic places in college football, or even in football. What's that experience like for you, and enjoying just playing the sport?
I just try to enjoy it all, soak it all in. My first year of college football, I didn't travel to any of the away games. So this past season was my first real opportunity to go to some of those big away stadiums and really enjoy it. So I just try to tell myself, to soak it all in, like going in there and for the pregame warmups and walking through the stadiums and places like the Big House, Happy Valley, Wisconsin was a really nice stadium. All the places we played, just to enjoy it. Because, like I said, as tough as college football can be and as stressful as it may get sometimes, at the end of the day, this is what I wanted to do since I was a kid. So I've just tried to tell myself to, enjoy it and not take it too serious, so that at the end of the day, I'm having fun.
Yeah, and I will say that anybody that plays in the Big Ten knows that all these historic places to play, like next year you'll play at the Shoe, and you'll be able to play Michigan State and those places. It's just such a privilege to be able to. I had an interview with Rick Volk, and he played at Michigan in the NFL, and he just kept on saying about how it was such a privilege to be able to play at the Big House and at all these places.
Yeah.
So, well, let's just get into a little bit about you. What's your major and what do you want to do?
Right now I'm majoring in communications. I don't have a clear path for what I want to do after football. I definitely want to at least try to coach. My dad coached high school football for over 30 years. Did a couple stints in the NFL when he was younger, straight out of high school, and while he was still in college with some of the people that he knew. And then my brother obviously is coaching college now here. So that's something I know I want to at least, try go down that career path. Outside of that, I'm only 20 years old. I think I got a few more years under my belt to figure out if there's anything outside of, the football realm that I really want to do. But majoring in communications, hopefully can get a master's degree here and, kind of see where things take me from there.
Yeah, and enjoy it. I mean, you have time, so enjoy the football experience. And even like you went to Wake Forest at first and then transferred to Maryland. What made you make that decision, and what was the transfer portal like?
There were a lot of things that went into making that decision to ultimately leave Wake Forest. The biggest one obviously being just the opportunity to play. I was at Wake Forest for about a year, enjoyed my time there, didn't really have anything bad to say about it. met a lot of really good people, learned a lot of, valuable lessons that one may learn in their freshman year of college and first year of college football. But at the end of the day, I just knew that if I wanted to reach the goals that I had for myself playing on the football field, that I felt it was going to be best to go elsewhere. So that was probably the main thing. And then going into the portal last spring, it was definitely a stressful situation, but having the family and close friends I had back home, made it a lot easier. And feel like I'm a very personable person. I'm big on relationships. So there was a lot of, it was good to go in the portal and still have those connections with some of those schools that recruited me out of high school, and some new schools that came along, that, had offered me a scholarship and offered me an opportunity to play at their, university. So it was definitely a stressful situation, but it all worked out the way it should. And I'm glad it did.
Yeah, and obviously I'm a Maryland fan, a huge Maryland fan, and I'm happy to have you in Maryland. But um, what would you say really was like the deciding point? You said playtime, but what was the deciding point out of other schools that you had as options that you said, I want to go to Maryland?
Yeah, when I got the Maryland offer, and the opportunity to come here, that really kind of set the bar high for me. And in terms of any other school I talked to after that, in my head, it kind of had to beat that. And in terms of, there were a lot of factors that went into it, but just some of the main ones were my familiarity with them. Being 35 minutes away from home, my brother working on staff, my dad had played here for 2 years. Like, I had a lot of background with Maryland football growing up. So, and the coaching staff, Coach Locks, I'd gone to some camps at Alabama when he was the offense coordinator there back when I was in middle school and early high school. And then obviously they had recruited me a little bit out of high school. So, and some of the coaches on staff I had known before. So the familiarity, and then being close to home, and then there's the DMV for those that aren't from here. You don't really get it until you are, but it's a very good spot geographically to go to school in, to grow up in, to work in, to live in, all that stuff. Especially with the nature of college football now. And it really, when I came on my official visit here in May, it really spoke volume to me that Maryland, I kind of looked at it as far as not what Maryland was offering me. It was kind of like, I'm going to be able to get as much out of the situation as I want. And Maryland offered some really good things as far as obviously the football and a chance to get better as a player and eventually get an opportunity to play, but also off the field with their internships. That Coach Locks has done a really good job developing relationships with all these Fortune 500 companies. Kevin Plake of Under Armour, things like that, where I could really set myself up for success when my football days are over here. So that was probably the main thing, were those three things that went into play when making the decision to come here and put Maryland ahead of the other schools I was getting recruited at.
Yeah, and obviously it's a pretty great situation to be able to have offer from. I mean, you originally had an offer to play for another Power 5 school in Wake Forest, and then an offer to play for another Power 5 school in Maryland. What really came? What did you do to work to be able to be a Power 5 level quarterback? And that's like the highest level of college football.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have to give a lot of credit to the people, as you could say, the village I had growing up, with my parents, my family, my brother, my sister, my high school coaches, some of the trainers I had when I was younger. I'm just doing a really good job. I think, in the recruiting process, it's very, very easy to get discouraged, get complacent, let all those things creep in. But I just, I think I learned a lot from my brother, him being about 5 years older than me, and watching him go through high school football, college football, seeing how his recruiting process panned out, and learning a lot from him. And on the back end of that, he knew kind of how his process turned out and what mistakes he made, and he was able to teach me from those. So I just think I did a good job myself, but also the people around me did a really good job of just keeping my head on straight and kind of understanding the process that you have to go through to get to, where I am now of being a Power 5 quarterback and getting, countless opportunities to play at the next level. So that was, it was all a very rewarding process, from, coming from when I was 15, 16 years old of having this goal and dream to play at the Power 5 level. But I just think, I owe a lot of credit to those people that raised me and grew up with me in those important years of my life.
Yeah, that's really cool. And being able to, like right now, sophomore in high school for me, and my goal is to be where you're at, but for basketball.
Yeah,
Uh, being able to have the people in your corner is the biggest thing.
no doubt. Makes it a
So
lot easier.
yeah, it does, 100%. And um, what really like pushed you to say, or I mean, you had your family. Where'd your brother play? That's
He walked on to Alabama. He was a walk-on quarterback there. That's where he, made the connections with Coach Loxley, Coach Enos, who was the offensive coordinator here this past semester, Coach Miller, who's the tight ends coach here. All those coaches, those were the three those two and Coach Locks were, the connections he had here. But he was around a lot of good people, made a lot of really good connections. That ultimately led him going into the coaching profession.
that's cool. And Alabama's the up here.
Yeah,
That's pretty
no
awesome.
doubt.
And even I think Maryland's like growing to be a one of top three, maybe even a top Big Ten program.
Yeah,
It has to be a cool, and even the new facilities that you guys are having.
we're blessed, man. We're blessed. We got some
Yeah,
of the best facilities in the country. Makes everything that much easier when you got to come in there and go through the grind, whether it's in the winter or the off season training or the dog days of fall camp, whatever it may be. Definitely makes your lives a lot easier.
what's your off season daily workout or daily schedule?
So I'm kind of just getting into the routine of that because we just started school this past week, but I'd say like a rough outline of it is we lift in the morning. So anywhere like either I'll lift at 6 or I'll lift at 8. And then usually lift at 8. Got about after lift, obviously, eat, shower. Um, got about 3 hours straight of class. All my classes this semester are back to back to back. So makes it easier to go get those out of the way and then have about 2 hours to eat lunch, do any rehab, training room, anything I need like that, rest. And then we have team run at 3. And then after that, usually depending on the load of schoolwork I have, come back, uh, probably eat again, shower, schoolwork, chill out, stretch, roll out. And then, depending on there's a couple nights of the week that I'll be in bed pretty early if I have the 6 a.m. And then there's some nights I'll be able to stay up a little bit later. So pretty much wake up, workout, school, workout, and then depending, in that afternoon block of the day, depending on how much schoolwork I have, sometimes, that looks different than other days.
Yeah, well, I mean, enjoying the college experience too. What's been the best part about being a Maryland quarterback going to Maryland?
I mean, definitely, I think just a sense of pride that people get for coming to the University of Maryland, but also the football team, and getting the opportunity to play it all this year just makes it that much more special. Coming driving down Route 1 and going to class and walking throughout campus. Everyone has Maryland stuff on. A lot of people, if they recognize you, give you fist bumps, say what's up, uh, you know, wish you luck on your games, tell you had a good game. Just a sense of pride, I think that's been the coolest thing coming here and seeing how many people actually care about Maryland football and actually, how many people, love the University of Maryland and have grown up a Terp and, are proud to continue the legacy. So that's probably been the coolest thing in my, short time here is how much weight, coming to the University of Maryland holds and how many people take pride in it.
Yeah, and I feel I have no idea. I'm outsider looking in, but being a quarterback at a big school, that must be, I mean, yeah, like you said, the pride of just being able to have that position and all the hard work that you put in to be able to get to the position you're in. It's just awesome experience.
It
So
is. You just gotta, you try to remember to enjoy it, but then also there's the part of you that you just tell yourself keep on pushing because there's many decisions you made when you were younger that allowed myself to get to this position. So there's always the voice in the back of my head that just you got to tell yourself to keep on going.
with decision making, what kind of for football wise, what's the difference between playing against, like, you're playing high school and it's obviously not the same level,
Yeah.
but how important is decision making compared to just pure, like, beyond, because you're athletic, you're a dual threat. What's the difference between what makes you decide between, all right, I gotta be careful here. I gotta, like, run for 5 yards or 10, or take a shot down the field, or what's the difference between decision making at the level that you're at?
Yeah. That's a tough question to pinpoint and answer with, but I think it just depends. Obviously this was my second year in college football. This was my first year I played. So I gained a little bit of experience underneath my belt. I think all of it comes with two things. I think preparation. I think this year, Coach Locks, Coach Enos, the rest of the offensive staff did a really good job at helping us prepare. At least myself, having not played in any games coming into the season, prepare. That way, when you go in there into a game, it's almost like second nature, or you train so much that it becomes second nature. That way, you don't think. Because there's definitely times in games, where I'd probably take a sack when I shouldn't have, but then on the next play, I'm like, okay, you got to know the sticks. It's third down. I'm either throwing the ball downfield past 12 yards because it's third and 11, or if I'm running it, it better be enough green grass where I know I can get 13 yards. So it's just things like that with the preparation and experience. It's definitely a lot different than high school. You're going against some of the best athletes in the country, while also having some of the best athletes on your team as weapons and stuff. So it definitely makes it, that much harder, but that's why you play the game. You enjoy going against the best. As I continue to get opportunities to play and get more experience underneath my belt, I think, hopefully those things could continue to come easier, and I continue to stack those reps and make it more second nature. But, you try to go out there, you try to prepare well enough Monday through Friday so that when you go out Saturday, you're not really thinking of those things that you just said. But there's definitely times where, times this year where that's in the back of my head, like, it's third and 4 right here. It's 4th and 2. We got to make sure we get it past the sticks. It's 1st and 10, get 4 yards. If it's second and long, we're trying to get half, make it reasonable. So all those things are going through your mind, but the goal at the end of the day is to train and prepare well enough to where you don't have to think of those. It's just second nature, and you're just going out there and playing free.
Yeah, that would make the most sense, of having the natural football instinct. And I've never played. I can't play. So I've never thought about how you just had to have that instinct of knowing, like you said, 4th and 2, got to move the sticks or look for green grass, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can make that analogy, and it's the same thing with every sport. For basketball, you go out there, they're playing zone. You got to know you're moving the ball. Find the weak spot, find the soft spot. You're trapping, you're pressing, whatever the thing is. So it's just, that's why, playing the game of football, I think it helps you out a lot. And for me, at least, and with, a lot of lessons of life, and things that you learn, especially as a young adult, that you'll continue to learn throughout college and, the rest of your adulthood. But just things like that, teaching yourself how to prepare the right way, and making it easier when it comes time to actually have to do it.
Yeah, and just a little stat. You're the highest completion percentage out of any quarterback in a Maryland quarterback in a bowl game. 1 for 1, 45 yards.
I'm sure there's a minimum pass attempts or something I didn't fulfill, but I'll take that 1 for 1.
What was the experience like playing in, I mean, you were in the Carolina Panther Stadium playing against a ranked NC State team. What was it like playing in that situation and be able to have that big play?
That was awesome. That was such a great experience, great environment. My freshman season at Wake, that was where we played in the ACC championship against Pitt, and we ended up losing. So that was my first time, obviously, back in that stadium since we played in that game, and to obviously be on the other side of it, and to get the opportunity to start that game. It was a great experience. It was a great environment. The whole stadium was filled in red, and to be honest with you, at the beginning of the game, I didn't know who was our fans and who wasn't, just because it was all red. But definitely after that third down conversion and watching Jay Sean run down the field, you you felt all the Maryland fan base there. So it was a very cool experience. I'm glad, I got the opportunity to play in that game.
Yeah, and that was a fun game to watch. It was low scoring and defensive battle, and you really had a that really pushed the that was such a big play that really defined the game, I thought. So
Yeah, hopefully, wish we could have punched it in there at the end, but it's all right. Worked out in our favor.
yeah. Uh what was so you get to play under one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Toledo holds every record and almost every record in Maryland football history. How much have you learned under playing under such a great quarterback in Maryland history?
A ton both on and off the field. I mean, like I said, coming in, in the summer, it's tough to learn a system, as quick as a turnaround as I had, but having Talia and all the older guys in the room, made it a lot easier. Just little things with Talia, like certain route concepts that we would talk back and forth. Like he loved throwing this concept, and I was like, man, I hate throwing that. Like if that was me in the game, that's not something I would want to be called. But learning under him and just hearing all the small things, because he's played a lot of football throughout his career. So just hearing some of the situations he's been in, the games he's been in, and then more off the field too, just his preparation. He prepares as well as anybody I know, and he does it in a very he's a very calm guy. If anyone has ever talked to him off the field and outside of the Jones Hill house, he's very laid back and very to himself. And I think that's what makes him such a special player is he's able to carry himself in such a high manner, but also do it while he's never too uptight. He's never all stress and everything. He's a very laid back guy, and I think it shows in the football field when he's it's 3rd and 15 in the big house, and he's got some of the best pass rushers blitzing him in the country, and he's able to extend the play with his feet or hang in there and make a throw to move the stick. So it's been a really cool experience. I'm glad I get one more year to pick his brain and see what other things I can get from him before he goes off and plays on Sundays. So
Yeah, I think he'll be just fine on Sundays too. I mean, like you said, the like things he can do, like staying calm in the big house and getting like the 3rd and 15 situation and rushing for a first down in the red zone. That's just huge. And then, I mean, you guys are on the verge of an 11 win season. There's 3 or 4 tough games that, I mean, Ohio State close throughout the entire thing. And that's a playoff team. Then Michigan lose by 7. That's a playoff team. And then the Purdue game, questionable. I mean, that game drove me crazy. Some questionable calls and just that was a tough game. So you guys are on the verge of an 11 win season and obviously high expectations for next year. Is there a different mindset going into this season? Just like, all right, this is our time this will be our great season.
I can't answer that fully, having this be my first off season with Maryland. I will say though, we're happy with the season we had, from the season they had last year at 7-6 to 8-5 this year. They obviously, we took another step in the right direction. But I think you could definitely feel it in the facility and throughout the locker room that, there was a lot of, as Coach Locks has said it, and our strength coach RD, we left a lot of meat on the bone this season. Like you said, have won in 8 games and really we feel like we let some of those games slip away from us throughout the year where we could have, 9, 10, 11 wins. So, I wouldn't say there's a different mindset, but I know that, we knew how tough it was to win 8 games and we had it in the back of our head, but we also know it's 0-0 now and we got to put all that work in and some to have the opportunity to go win 9, 10, 11 games, which is our goal every year to continually improve and win, as many games as possible. So I don't know if there's a different mindset, but, I definitely feel the locker room is in a good headspace right now for having started our off-season training and get this thing rolling here in February so that, we put all the work in now that way the Saturdays in September through November take care of themselves next year.
Yeah, and that's a good mindset. And being able to, 0-0, starting over.
Everyone's even.
Yep, all even. And I think you guys are gonna be just fine. But so you played a lot this year. and and you even started a few games. What was one moment where you look back on the season and that's the first moment you think of?
Probably the Indiana game in the fourth quarter going in. That one was just, thinking of my experience in that game, going into that game. I think it was like week 6. I think we were sitting at 4-2.
Billy Edwards Jr., the Wake Forest transfer, going to the
I hadn't played in a couple weeks. I played in the Michigan game. I didn't play against Michigan State, Purdue, and then it's Indiana. So I hadn't played in like 3 weeks. And thinking of it now, like I barely remember that trip in terms of what, like all the time leading up until I ended up going to that game. Like I just don't remember it very well. But then going into that game, getting those couple drives in the fourth quarter and helping the team come back and win that game felt, I don't even know how to describe it. That was probably the coolest 12 hours of my life in terms of playing that game. And then, that night and the plane ride back and waking up Sunday morning and saying like, wow, this, that really happened. So just playing that game, I'd say that whole experience of coming in late that game, and we're down in the fourth quarter, and first drive, we ended up having a punt. Our defense did a great job of stopping them, giving us the ball back. And then probably that third down run I had to set us up in the, at like the 3 or 4 was probably the one moment where I think of like, I think that's where I gained the most confidence. I think I gained a lot of confidence playing in the Michigan game. Obviously we fell short. But that Indiana game is something, definitely a moment and a memory that I'll probably never forget.
Yeah, I remember watching that game and thought you did really well. So especially that fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So, so you've been able to, like we talked about, you've been able to play in all these cool stadiums. What's been your favorite place to play where you just walked in and you're, wow, this place is just incredible?
Definitely the Big House. For a couple of reasons, that was like the first away game was UNC Charlotte. Obviously going to Wake Forest, I'd seen UNC Charlotte. I'd been there before, first time playing in it, but then going to the Big House, like you said, it was you could feel the history when you walked in there. Like I remember Friday afternoon walking through it, and just looking at going 360 and looking at the whole place like, wow. And then get an opportunity to play in there. And when I got in the fourth quarter, we had a couple long third downs and fourth downs where all 111,000 or how many ever people were there that day were screaming. So it was that was the first time where I was like, wow, like playing in such a historical stadium and playing against, one of the top teams in the country and being able to drive the ball down the field and score in the fourth quarter. That was a really cool experience.
Yeah, that game was nuts. I mean, it was so loud. And I had like my partner on the podcast, he even said that game was louder than it was for the Michigan State game.
Yeah.
And it must have, just such a cool experience. How much, you have to feel lucky being able to play in this. Do you feel like, wow, this is what I've worked for? This is like, I've earned this? Or do you
100%.
feel like, thank you, or you feel lucky that you're in this situation?
Just very, very grateful. I think that's one thing I learned, to be more grateful throughout the season, having gotten the opportunity to play in some of these historical stadiums, play in these games, play college football in general. Just be grateful for, the highs and lows of it all. Having to get in games like the Michigan game, Indiana, playing in Happy Valley a couple snaps, hurt my ankle there. That was probably the one thing, just the one word that resonated with me the most throughout the season was grateful. Just with everything that comes with it, as stressful as the season got throughout times. My sister, I forget what week it was or what time it was when she told it to me, but she kind of just reminded me, this is what I've always worked for. This is what I've always dreamed for as a kid is to play college football, to get the opportunity that I'm getting right now. And as intimidating as it may seem, or as stressed out as I was, or whatever the case was, she just kind of reminded me to be grateful for it all and be like, remind myself that, this is what I wanted, and to enjoy it. And just, I was, very blessed this year to get the opportunities I did and to go through what I went through, both on and off the field. So it was a very, very, awesome 6 months. I don't really know how else to say it, but I was definitely very grateful, looking back at the season, just the experiences I was able to have.
Yeah, and what I only have a few more questions, but
You know,
what
good.
was what's your advice to high school athletes trying to be in the position you are being? Like, what would you say to do to be able to be in the situation you're in right now?
I think there's a couple things, for me, my mom was a teacher. So I'd say the first thing, probably the most important thing is you always want to take care of your grades. Make sure they're the best they can be. Because you got to kind of think when a college coach is recruiting you or looking at you, they're kind of looking for any reason to say no. And we'll move on to the next guy. So, I've seen, people, whether I was in high school, I'm out of high school, people I know, whatever, that grades have negatively impacted them when getting recruited. So take care of your grades, and then other than that, you gotta kind of make sure the work you're putting in, you want to put it in, because college athletics, whether it's football, basketball, any sport, is hard. So you just got to make sure you love it, and then when you love it, you got to make that choice with yourself to commit to it, and you commit to the process of whether it's throwing 4 times a week, lifting, running a couple times a week, whatever. You just have to commit to yourself that this is what I want to do, and develop a plan. And whether you develop that plan by yourself or with a trainer, with your parents, older siblings, whatever, when you develop that plan, you kind of you stay true to yourself, and you stick to the plan, you stick to the script. And the most important thing after all that is you got to have faith, because you're going to go through tough times, and the process is not as straightforward as it may seem online or in TV shows, movies, over social media. So you just got to have faith, because there's going to be ups and downs throughout the recruiting process or throughout the process of getting to play college athletics. So have faith, and take care of your work in school, and put the work in, and it'll all kind of take care of itself at the end of the day, which is something that over my first years of college football, I think I found out, that at the end of the day, it'll all work itself out, and you'll be right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, that's great advice, and grades are everything. Grades are very important. So that's for anybody listening. For that's good to know. And that's all I really have. Thank you so much for being on. And
I appreciate you having me.
yeah, and have a great season coming up, and good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it, boss.
All right. Stop recording.